Okay. We're going to finish reading Pinocchio. It's we're on chapter 17. As you guys can see, Pinocchio gets well and tells a lie. When the three doctors had gone, the fairy came to Pinocchio and, upon touching his forehead, perceived that he had a high fever. So she put a white powder in a glass of water and gave it to him, saying gently, "Drink this, and after a while you will be well." Pinocchio gazed at the glass, made a wry face, and asked winningly, "It is sweet or bitter?" "It is bitter, but will do you good." "If it is bitter, I don't want it. But listen to me, drink it." "But I don't like bitter things." "Drink it, and then I will give you a lump of sugar to take the taste out of your mouth." "Where's the lump of sugar?" "Here it is." "Give it to me. Give it to me first, and then I'll take that medicine. You promise?" "Yes." The fairy gave him the sugar, and Pinocchio soon finished it. Then he said, licking his lips, "How nice it would be if sugar were medicine. I'd take it every day." "Now keep your promise and take the medicine," said the fairy. It will make you well." Pinocchio held the glass in his hand and sniffed it at its contents. Then put it to his mouth. Then smelled it again and finally said, "It's too bitter, too bitter. I can't possibly gulp it down." "How can you say that when you haven't tasted it?" "Oh, I can imagine. I can tell by the smell. Give me a lump of sugar and then I'll drink it." So the fairy, with all the patience of an indulgent mamma, put another lump of sugar in his mouth and then handed him the medicine again. "Truly, I can't drink it," wailed the puppet with 1,000 grimaces. "Why?" "Because the pillow is too close to my face." The fairy moved the pillow. "It's no use. I can't drink it." "What else annoys you?" "The door is ajar." The fairy shut the door. "Honestly, I can't drink the bitter stuff," howled Pinocchio. "No, no, no! My boy, you will be sorry. I don't care. You'll die of the fever. I don't care. I'd rather die than take that bitter medicine all night." "All right then," said the fairy. At this, the door opened and walked in 4 rabbits, black as ink and carrying a coffin on their shoulders. "What do you want?" cried Pinocchio, sitting up. "Well, we have come to take you away," said the largest rabbit. "To take me away? Why, I'm not dead yet." "No, not yet, but you will be in a few moments, since you have refused the medicine that would make you well." "Oh, my fairies," yelled Pinocchio. "Give me that medicine quickly. Send them away. I don't want to die. I don't want to die." And he seized the glass with both hands and drank the dose down at one gulp. "Whoosh," said the rabbits. "We have come on a fool's errand." And taking the coffin up on their shoulders, they went away grumbling. Not long afterward, Pinocchio jumped out of bed entirely well, for you must know that wooden boys are rarely ill and then get well quickly. When the fairy saw him capering around the room, happy as a chicken that has just burst its shell, she said, "So my medicine has cruelly cured you?" "Yes, indeed. I had a close call." "Then why did you make such a fuss about taking it?" "Oh, boys are all alike. We are more afraid of the medicine than of the illness." "For shame! Boys ought to know that a good remedy taken in time often keeps a dangerous sickness, perhaps death." "The next time I shan't be so bad. I shall remember those black rabbits in the coffin. Then I'll take the medicine right away." "That's right. Now come and tell me how you happened to fall into the hands of thieves. Pinocchio told faithfully that all that had happened to him when he had ended. The fairy asked, "What did you do with the 4 gold pieces?" "I lost them," replied Pinocchio. But he told a lie because he had them in his pocket. The moment he said to this, his nose, which was already long enough, grew 4 inches. "Where did you lose them?" asked the fairy. "In the forest near here." At this second lie, at this at the second lie, the nose grew longer. "If you have lost them in the forest near here," said the fairy, "we shall soon find them, for everything here is always found." "Oh, no, I recollect," said the puppet. I did not lose the coins, but I swallowed them when I took the medicine." At the third lie, Pinocchio's nose grew so long that he couldn't turn around. If he turned one way, he struck it against the bedpost or the window. When he turned the other, he hit the wall or the door. The fairy looked at him and began to laugh. "Why are you laughing?" asked the puppet sheepishly. "I laugh at the foolish lies you have told." "How did you know they were lies?" "Lies, my boy, are recognized at once because they are of only 2 kinds. Some haven't short legs and others have long noses. Yours are the kind that have long noses." Pinocchio was so crestfallen that he tried to run away and hide himself, but he couldn't. His nose had grown so long that he couldn't get through the door. See chapter 18. Okay. The fox and the cat again. Right here. The fairy let the puppet cry a howl for a good half hour on account of his long nose. She did this in order to teach him a lesson upon the folly of telling falsehoods. But when she saw his eyes swollen and his face red with weeping, she was moved by pity for him. She clapped her hands together, and at that signal a large flock of woodpeckers flew into the window and alighting one by one upon Pinocchio's nose. They pecked so hard that in a few moments it was reduced to its usual size. "How good you are, dear fairy," said the puppet, weeping his eyes, "and how I love you." "I love you too," replied the puppet, "and if you would like to live here in my house, you shall be my little brother." "I would do so gladly, but my poor father, I have arranged all that. Your father has been told already and will join us before nightfall." "Truly," cried Pinocchio, dancing around with delight. "Then, my fairy, if you will let me, I would like to go and meet him. And I can't hardly wait to see the dear old man who has suffered so much for me." Go then, but be careful not to lose your way. Take the road to the forest, and you will surely meet him." Pinocchio set forth, and as soon as he was in the forest, he began to run like a deer. But when he reached a certain spot opposite the great oak, he stopped, thinking that he heard someone. In fact, he saw coming along the road. Whom do you suppose? Why, the fox and the cat, the same 2 persons who had supped him with at the Red Lobster Inn. "Well, if here isn't our dear Pinocchio," cried the fox, running up to him and throwing both arms around his neck. "How did you ever get here?" "How did you ever get here?" repeated the cat. "It's a long story," said the puppet, "which I shall have to tell you later. Do you know the other night after you had left me at the inn, I met 2 thieves on the highway." "2 thieves? Oh, my poor friend, and what did they want?" They tried to rob me of my money. Infamous, said the fox. Most infamous, said the cat. But I got away from them, continued the puppet. Then they pursued me, and after a long chase, they caught me and hung me upon a limb, that oak tree yonder. Who ever heard of such a thing? Said the fox. What a world we live in, where nobody can be safe anymore. Well, while they were talking, Pinocchio noticed that one of the cat's paws was tied up as if it were hurt. What's the matter with your paw? He asked. The cat tried to answer, but grew confused, so the fox answered for him. My friend is so modest, he doesn't like to talk. He got his foot hurt through mistaken kindness to a wolf. My friend has such a kind heart, and the fox wiped away a tear. Pinocchio also was very much touched by this. Never mind, he said, putting the cat on the shoulder. Where are you going now? Asked the fox of Pinocchio. I am on my way to meet my father, who may arrive here at any moment. And your money? Oh, I have that safe enough in my pocket, all except the coin I spent at the Red Lobster. And to think that those 4 gold pieces could so easily become 1,002 by tomorrow. Why don't you follow my advice and plant them in the wonder field? Today it is impossible. Some other day we might do it. Some other day will be too late, said the fox. Why? Why? Because this land has just been bought by a rich lord, and after tomorrow nobody will be permitted to plant these things in it. How far away is it? Not more than 2 miles. Will you come along now? In a half hour? In half an hour you'll be there. Then you can plant your coins at once, and in a few minutes you can harvest your 2,000, and this evening you'll have your pockets full. Will you come? Pinocchio hesitated. He remembered the advice of the good fairy, and of old Geppetto, and of the talking cricket. But he ended by doing like all silly little boys who want to please themselves. With a nod of his head, he said to the fox and cat, all right, I'm with you. And they started. After walking for about half a day, they came to a city called Bull's Trap. When they had entered it, Pinocchio saw in every street lean dogs yawning with hunger, shorn sheep which trembled from cold, plucked chickens which gaped for aid, butterflies without wings, peacocks whose tails had been cut off, and other forlorn animals. In the midst of his wretched throng, they passed from time to time fine carriages whose occupants proved to be some fox or magpie or vulture. Where is the wonder field? Demanded Pinocchio. Only a few steps further. In a proof of this, they went on through the city and stopped outside the walls in a deserted field that looked like other fields. Here we are, said the fox. Now just stoop down, dig a little hole with your hand, and plant your gold pieces. Pinocchio obeyed. He dug a hole and put the 4 coins in it, then covered it all over again. Now then, said the fox, bring a little water from that ditch and sprinkle over the place where you have planted the gold. Pinocchio went to the ditch, and as he had no bucket, he took off one of his shoes, filled it with water, and sprinkled the ground. Then he asked, is there anything else to do? Nothing else, replied the fox. Now we can go away. In 20 minutes, you can come back and find a little tree sprouting up with all its branches full of gold pieces. The silly puppet, almost crazy with joy at this prospect, thanked the fox and the cat 1,000 times and promised them a splendid gift. We don't wish anything, they replied. We are satisfied to have taught you how to get rich without labor. It is our best reward. With this bait, farewell to Pinocchio, wished him a fine harvest and went their way. Okay, that's let me do one more. Is it 11? 19, sorry, chapter 19. Pinocchio is thrown into prison. Chapter 19. The puppet went back to the city and began to count the minutes one by one, and as soon as he thought the time was up, he returned hastily to the wonder field. As he walked along with impatient steps, his heart beat like a clock, tick, tick, tock. And he was thinking to himself, what if I should find 5,000 gold pieces instead of 2,000? Oh, what a rich man I should be. I would have a fine palace and a stable full of horses and the carriages, and I would have a cellar full of sweetmeats and a pantry full of cakes and candies. With such wild dreams as these, he finally reached the field and began to look for the tree laden with gold. But saw nothing. He went 100 steps further. Nothing. He went all around the field until he reached the hole where he had planned his money, and still nothing. He took off his hat and scratched his head in perplexity. Just then he heard a burst of laughter, and looking upward, he saw a large parrot who was cleaning his feathers with his bill. What are you laughing at? Asked Pinocchio in a rage. I laughed because in pre-inning my wings tickled myself. The puppet had no reply for this. He went again to the ditch and filling his shoe with water, he was before water as before sprinkled the earth above these treasures. Then behold another peal of laughter. Pinocchio, more impertinent than the first, echoed through the silent field. Vulgar fellow, do you know what you are laughing about now? Cried Pinocchio wrathfully. I laugh at those simpletons who believe every tomfoolery that is told them, and who fall into every trap. Do you mean me? Yes, I mean you, Pinocchio. You were foolish enough to believe that money grows like corn. I thought so too, once upon a time, but I suffered for it. Now, too late, I have found that in order to gain money honestly, one must work either with his hands or with his head. And I don't understand you, said the puppet, who began to tremble with fear. Then I will explain myself, said the parrot. Know then that while you were away in the city, the fox and the cat came back here and stole your money and fled like the wind. You'll never be able to catch them. Pinocchio stood with open mouth and not wishing to believe the parrot's story. He commenced to dig up the ground with his fingers. He dug and dug until he had made a hole so large that a haystack might be put in it. But he never found a trace of money. Then in despair he returned to the city. He went into the court of law to lodge a complaint against the robbers who had stolen his money. The judge was a monkey of the face of gorillas. He was very old and looked dignified on account of his white beard and gold eyeglasses without lenses, which he wore all the time on account of weakness of weak eyes. Pinocchio told the judge all about the fraud which had been practiced upon him and gave the names and descriptions of the thieves. He ended by asking for justice. The judge listened to him with a kind face and seemed greatly interested and even moved. When the puppet had finished his story, he stretched out his hand and rang a bell at his summons. Two mastiffs, dressed like policemen, entered the room. Then the judge pointed at Pinocchio and said, "This silly fellow has been robbed of all his money. Arrest him and put him in prison." The puppet, on hearing this sentence, could hardly believe his ears. Then he began to protest, but the officers, in order to avoid a useless waste of time, clapped him over the mouth and put him in a prison cell. And there he had to stay for 4 long months, and probably would have been there much longer if it had not been for a lucky happening. It seems that the emperor of the city of Fool's Trap won a victory over his enemies, and to celebrate it, he ordered a great festival with fireworks, parades, and feasts. And in order to make still greater rejoicing, he opened all the prisons and set the criminals at liberty. If the other prisoners are freed, I ought to be too, said Pinocchio to the jailer. You? No, replied the jailer. You are not an evildoer. Excuse me, replied Pinocchio. But if it comes to that, I'm as bad as any of them. Then you are right, said the jailer, and taking off his hat respectfully, he opened the cell door and now stood aside with a bow for the puppet to pass out. Okay, tomorrow will be chapter 20.